Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started now. Thank you. We've established our quorum. Just like to briefly say that if anyone has an electronic device, a cell phone, or any other type of device that makes noise, I'd ask that you please turn it off or turn it on silent. Thank you. Thank you for your anticipated cooperation. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Bishop Saba of the Georgian Apostolic Church in North America. He is here today as a guest of Councilman O. I would ask that all members, guests, and visitors please rise. Bishop.
Good morning, everyone. I am Bishop Saba, head of the Georgian Orthodox Church in North America. Thank you for your invitation. It's my pleasure. God bless you, all of you, and help you. Now, I will say prayer in my native language because my English not so good yet. Mama Ochveno, Romeli Khartsatashina, Tsminda iqav sakheli sheni, movedin supeva sheni, iqav neba sheni, vitartsatsatashina, egretsa kveqanasa zeda. Puri ჩვენი არსობისა მომეჩვენ დღეს და მომიტევენ ჩვენ თანანადებნი ჩვენი, ვითარცა ჩვენ მიუტევებ თანამდებთამა ჩვენთა და ნუ შემიყვანებ ჩვენ განსაცდელსა, არამედ მიხსენ ჩვენ ბოროტისაგან. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, now and ever and unto ages of ages. Amen. God be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bishop, thank you so much for your invocation. We really appreciate it. Council, be at ease. Thank you again, Bishop. We really appreciate you being here today. At this time, the chair would like to recognize Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I just want to take a moment to recognize the young people at William C. Longstreth Elementary School. Their student council is here to visit us and watch their government in action. Will all the young people please stand up so we can give them a round of applause and recognize them? I want to say thank you to their teacher, Mr. Rocco. They came down to watch council in session and have lunch with the councilmen. So I look forward to some pizza and some dialogue after City Council today. Thank you, Council President.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for coming down. We really appreciate you being here today. Thank you, and good luck. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, December 1st, 2022, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, December 1st, 2022 be approved.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, December 1st, 2022 stand approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and our journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence. And the chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of members of council, there is a request for leaves of absence by Member Brooks.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Thank you. Be granted. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla for a motion concerning certain legislative matters that may arise during the course of today's session of council and that were not listed on the calendar circulated prior to today's session.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that any of the following matters considered today may be added to the agenda for this session of council and is required by law subsequently published on an amended agenda after the consideration of those matters. Resolutions authorizing hearings, amendments to bills on first readings, the consideration of a bill vetoed by or recalled from the mayor, amendments to bills recalled from the mayor, resolutions taking substantive action to be voted on in this session, a motion to withdraw a bill or resolutions that is not on the calendar, and motions placing a bill or resolution on or returning a bill or resolution from the suspension calendar that is not listed on today's calendar. The purpose of this motion is to provide the public with notice concerning possible actions by council that arose too late to be included on the calendar that was published prior to today's session. Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the legislative matters stated by Councilman Squilla may be added to the agenda for today should those matters arise during the course of this council session. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion is granted. And our next order of business is communications. And the chair requests that the chief clerk report communications from the mayor or any additional communications that he may have in his possession today.
From the mayor to the president and members of the council of the city of Philadelphia, I am pleased to advise you that on December 7, 2022, I signed the following bills, which were passed by council at its session on December 1, 2022. Bill numbers 220866, 220867, 220868, and 220869. And I am transmitting for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 3rd Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 2nd Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 7th Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 8th Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 1st Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 1st Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2544 South 5th Street and 1921 South 6th Street located in the 1st Councilmanic District. And a resolution confirming the appointment of James Snell to continue to serve on the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And a resolution confirming the appointment of Ismail Shahid to continue serving on the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And a resolution confirming the appointment of Crystal Morris to serve on the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And a resolution confirming the appointment of Samantha R. Lyons to serve on the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And a resolution confirming the appointment of Kenneth Johnson to serve on the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And a resolution confirming the appointment of Thomas Holloman to continue to serve on the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And a resolution confirming the appointment of William Bergman to continue to serve on the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And a resolution appointing Anna Boney to the Board of Directors of the Center City District. And a resolution appointing Valeria Bayers to the Board of Directors of the Center City District. And a resolution appointing Paul Badger to the Board of Directors of the Center City District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 3rd Councilmanic District. And a resolution approving the Philadelphia Housing Development Corporation as the City of Philadelphia's applicant to receive funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development under the Whole Home Program. and an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to accept a historically designated building from 2000 Arch Streets Associates, which will move and reinstall the building on city property, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. That concludes our communications. And our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions by our members today. Mr. Decker, please read the titles of those bills and resolutions.
Councilman Phillips offers one bill and one resolution, entitled an ordinance amending Section 12919 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled On-Street Parking of Boats, Motorhomes, Truck Campers, Semi-Trailers, Truck Tractors, and Vending Carts, to provide prohibitions on semi-trailer and truck tractor parking in the 9th District of Council. And a resolution calling on the administration, along with the Philadelphia Parking Authority, to perform an audit of semi-trailer and truck tractor parking across the city of Philadelphia, to investigate best practices in other jurisdictions, and to provide solutions to this growing problem in the city. Also authorizing the City Council Committee on Streets and Services to hold public hearings to assess the enforcement of semi-trailer and truck tractor parking regulations. Mr. President, Councilman Phillips would like to be recognized on this resolution and bill.
The chair recognizes Councilman Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I make a motion on this resolution, I would like to make a few comments about the legislation. First, I want to thank the co-sponsors of this legislation, Councilmember Brian O'Neill, Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson, Councilmember Sharon Vaughn, Councilmember Mark Skrilla, Councilmember Mike Driscoll, Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson, Councilmember Curtis Jones, and Councilmember James Harity, Councilmember Kendra Brooks, Councilmember Kessie Lozada, and Councilmember Cindy Bass. Today, I'm introducing both a bill and a resolution. Both of these legislative items are focused on a major quality of life issue that is plaguing many of our neighbors in the Philadelphia area, and that is a semi-trailer and truck tractor parking in residential neighborhoods. The bill I introduced emulates legislation that was recently introduced by my district council colleagues, Brian O'Neill and Mike Driscoll. Today, I want to just mention something really briefly about truck parking. No issue rises higher than quality of life, crime, and public nuisances in the city of Philadelphia than truck parking. When I was elected, I promised my neighbors that I would immediately focus my attention on real efforts to measurably improve quality of life. My bill does that. For residents in the 9th District and across the city, today is the beginning of relief from intrusive trucks on residential blocks. Today, I have authored and introduced a focus that will eradicate the presence of unwanted commercial vehicles on the city streets. Residential neighborhoods across the city are inundated with vehicles that diminish the beauty, livability, and desirability of life. This has implications for all Philadelphians. Eradicating this big problem is my opening salvo. We're just getting started. So the administration, we would like to help us enforce these meaningful measures, assess the prevalence of illegal parking trucks across the city, and take every possible step to post haste to make our city a better place to live. At the same time, I'm a business-friendly proponent of commerce in the city. My legislation seeks to help business people, especially hardworking truck drivers, owners who deserve a city that looks out for them. I envision a safe, accessible, and secure regional transportation hub that puts truck drivers at ease and alleviates the burden that currently is imposed upon residents who are actually stricken by this issue in the city of Philadelphia. So, Council President, today I want to say that we also need to understand how the city can better implement the existing laws that are already on the books. For example, several of my colleagues, including at-large council colleagues Thomas and O, have introduced legislation related to truck parking and other quality of life issues. And we need to understand how the laws are being further implemented by the administration. Because I also want the administration to publicly share the results of its audit, my resolution also authorizes the City Council Committee on Streets and Services to hold public hearings to assess the enforcement of semi-trailer and truck tractor parking regulations. I believe this is a problem that we can solve, and we can make it a win-win for residents and truck drivers alike. With that said, I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the consideration of the resolution at today's session, and I move the adoption of the resolution.
Hold on one second, Councilman. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
So you made a motion to suspend the rules of council to allow today's,
Permit consideration of
you.
resolution at today's session of council.
it's been moved and properly second. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. That will be on today's calendar. And your bill will be referred to the appropriate committee. And Councilman, if you can put on the list 33rd and Diamond, where there's a tractor trailer, two tractor trailers parked next to the rec center every day of the week. Okay, so I'm getting mine in early. Mr. Decker.
Councilman Thomas introduces, and Councilman Thomas and co-introduced by Councilwoman Gaudier offers a resolution honoring and congratulating Champion of the Week, Jacob Beckles, for being the first basketball player from Philadelphia Public League to receive admission to an Ivy League university in 40 years.
Today's calendar.
Councilman Jones offers 2 bills and 5 resolutions. On behalf of Council President Clark, an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to accept a historically designated building from 2000 Arch Associates, which will move and reinstall the building on city property.
For the committee.
And on his own behalf, an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan Number 167 by relocating the curb lines and a portion of the southerly house line of Arch Street between 63rd Street and Grove Street in order to conform more closely with existing conditions.
For the committee.
And on behalf of Council President Clark, a resolution approving the Philadelphia Housing Development Corporation as the city's applicant to receive funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development under the Whole Home Program. Non-privileged
Please,
resolution.
calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 3548 Germantown Avenue. And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to various properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District. And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to various properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to various properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District.
Those resolutions will be on next week's calendar.
Councilman Johnson offers 1 bill and 3 resolutions. Entitled an ordinance establishing a 2-way regulation on the southwesterly cartway of Vare Avenue extending along the southwesterly side of the Schuylkill Expressway from South 28th Street to Maiden Lane and establishing a 2-way regulation on South 28th Street from Vare Avenue to Porter Street.
For the committee.
And a privileged resolution authorizing the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities to hold hearings to examine the approach and expected impacts of SEPTA's bus revolution service reconfiguration.
Today's calendar.
And a privileged resolution authorizing the Committee on Labor and Civil Service to hold hearings to examine the prevalence of workplace misclassification, also known as payroll fraud.
Today's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to 1308 South Hollywood Street, 1310 South Hollywood Street, and 1312 South Hollywood Street, located in the 2nd Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Lozado offers a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 3418, 3420, and 3422 Kensington Avenue, located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gauthier offers 4 resolutions. A privileged resolution authorizing the Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention to conduct a hearing to develop a comprehensive approach to supporting youth who are at risk of being involved in or are currently involved in gun violence.
This week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution renaming the 5500 block of Christian Street Jean Lett Way.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1834, 1837, 1840, 1846, 1848 South Allison Street, 5517 Pascal Avenue, and 5804 Hazel Avenue, located in the 3rd Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 239 North Paxson Street, located in the 3rd Councilmanic District.
Also next week's calendar.
Councilman O'Neill offers 1 bill and 1 resolution, entitled an ordinance amending an ordinance, Bill Number 877, approved September 16, 1994, by amending an exhibit thereto, in order to increase the limit of the amount of funding any entity may receive in any fiscal year from the Philadelphia Activities Fund.
Refer to committee.
And a privileged resolution recognizing and honoring Nicholas Benedictus for his 18 years of service as chairman of the Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau Board of Directors.
This week's calendar.
Councilman Squilla offers 3 resolutions. A non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2544 South 5th Street and 1921 South 6th Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to 2868 Amber Street, 2118 East Monmouth Street, and 2132 East Monmouth Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to various properties located in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Also next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Bass offers an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by 17th Street, Indiana Avenue, Broad Street, and Glenwood Avenue.
Refer to committee.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered today by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. And our next order of business is reports from committee. And the chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a report from the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Council President. The Committee on Rules reports out 9 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Rules, to which is referred Bill Number 220846, entitled an ordinance approving the plan, estimated costs, and proposed method of assessment and charges of the Center City District for and concerning business improvements and administrative services to the Central Business District of the City of Philadelphia for 2023 through 2027. And Bill Number 220913, entitled an ordinance amending Section 14504, subparagraph 11 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled NCO Neighborhood Conservation Overlay District, Strawberry Mansion. And Bill Number 220915, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 14400 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Base Zoning Districts, and Chapter 14600 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Use Regulations, by revising provisions related to utilities and services and water treatment facilities. And Bill Number 220916, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Queen Lane, Wissahickon Avenue, Roosevelt Boulevard Extended, and Henry Avenue, and to authorize basic utilities and services in a section of Fairmount Park. And Bill Number 220917, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by City Avenue, Stout Road, Monument Road, and Belmont Avenue, and to authorize basic utilities and services in a section of Fairmount Park. And Bill Number 220918, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 14500 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Overlay Zoning Districts, by creating a new subsection entitled Cobbs Creek Golf Course Overlay District. And Bill Number 220919, 919, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Henry Avenue, Roosevelt Boulevard Extension, Scotts Lane, and Indian Queen Lane. And Bill number 220921, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 14500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by amending Section 14534 entitled AHP, Affordable Housing Preservation Overlay District, and by making related changes. And Bill number 220923, entitled an ordinance amending Titles 9 and 10 of the Philadelphia Code to establish procedures and requirements to prevent the theft of motor vehicles and parts, including catalytic converters. Respectfully reports that it is considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of the 9 bills that were just read into the record by the clerk.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 220846, 220913, 220915, 220916, 220917, 220918, 220919, 220921, and 220923. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. These bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilman Squilla for a report from the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Finance reports out one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Finance, to which was referred Bill number 220938, entitled an ordinance authorizing the Director of Commerce and the Director of Finance to enter into amendments to multi-year agreements with the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development, the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority, formerly known as the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Philadelphia, and other parties as necessary concerning the parking garage project constructed as part of the overall Market Street East Gallery 2 redevelopment project, including an additional amendment to the agreement between the city and PAID as amended, originally authorized by Bill number 546 approved June 15, 1993, and further authorizing the Director of Commerce and the Director of Finance, where necessary or prudent, to enter into ancillary agreements with any or all of PAID, PRA, Parametric Garage Associates, a new lender to Parametric, and other parties under certain terms and conditions. Respectfully reports it has considered and amended the same, and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading this day of Bill number 220938.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading this day of bills number 220938. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilman Thomas for a report from the Committee on Streets and Services.
Thank you, Council President. The Committee on Streets and Services reports out 8 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Streets and Services, to which was referred Bill number 220118, entitled an ordinance authorizing an encroachment upon East Passyunk Avenue and Moore Street in the vicinity of 1801 East Passyunk Avenue. And Bill number 220639, entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan number 627S by striking from the city plan the easterly 20 feet wide portion of Swanson Street from Wolf Street to Snyder Avenue, striking from the city plan and vacating the legally open portion of Vandalia Street from Wolf Street to Wicoco Avenue, and reserving and placing on the city plan a right-of-way. And Bill number 220775, entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan number 291 by striking from the city plan and vacating the legally open portions of Shellmeyer Avenue from State Road to the center line of the Philadelphia and Trenton Railroad. And Bill number 220844, entitled an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on both sides of Haverford Avenue between North 67th Street and North 68th Street. And Bill number 220870, entitled an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on both sides of Malvern Avenue between 63rd Street and Wynwood Road. And Bill number 220871, entitled an ordinance authorizing the installation, ownership, and maintenance of various encroachments in the vicinity of 435 North Broad Street. and Bill Number 220904, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Installation, Ownership, Replacement, and Maintenance of Various Encroachments in the Vicinity of 1700 through 1720 Arch Street, and Bill Number 220922, entitled An Ordinance Amending Section 12919 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled On-Street Parking of Boats, Motorhomes, Truck Campers, Semi-Trailers, Truck Tractors, and Vending Carts, to provide prohibitions on semi-trailer and truck tractor parking in the 6th District of Council. Respectfully reports it has considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair again recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading of this day of these 8 bills that were just read into the record by the clerk.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 220118, 220639, 220775, 220844, 220870, 220871, 220904, and 220922. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. These bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a report from the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs reports out one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, to which is referred Bill Number 220907, entitled An Ordinance Naming and Designating the Mill Creek Recreation Center, located at 4700 Brown Street, as the Tiffany Fletcher Recreation Center. Respectfully reports it has considered the same and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bill Number 220907.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 220907. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and this bill will be placed on our first reading calendar. And that concludes our reports from committee, and our next order of business is consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee with the suspension of the rules have had deemed to have had a first reading. They will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. The chair now recognizes Councilwoman Bass at this time for a motion regarding bill number 220923.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit an amendment to be offered to Bill Number 220923 at this time.
All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. And again, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer an amendment to Bill Number... It's the same language. Is that? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer an amendment to Bill Number 220923. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Bill number 220923 has been amended. Bill number 220923, as amended, will be placed on the final passage calendar at our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on our first reading calendar, Chair recognizes Councilman Jones for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills on the second reading and final passage calendar today. Councilman, hold on one second. Hold on one second, Councilman. Chair recognizes. Hold on. Councilman Squilla?
It's okay, Council President.
You okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, Councilman Jones.
Thank you,
Please
Mr.
proceed.
President. I move that the following resolutions and bill be called up from second reading and final passage calendars today. Numbers 220954, 220956, 220957, 220959, 220960, 220961, 220322AA, 220742, 220638, and 220666. All other bills and resolutions are being held.
Thank you, Councilman. Before considering the resolutions and the bills, we will consider public comment. Your public comment must concern matters on the second reading and final passage calendar for possible action at today's council session. All speakers must sign up in order to testify. If you have not already done so, you can now go to the hallway to the Sergeant of Arms and sign up at this time. Once you've signed up, you will be called in order from which your name appears on the sign-up sheet. Today, we have ideal circumstances, so you will have 3 minutes to speak. However, the time limit may vary from session to session based on the volume of individuals that are speaking. In order to be fair to all those wishing to speak today, we intend to hold faithfully the established time limit. So when you begin speaking, you will see a green light on the podium, and when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, the light will turn yellow. When the light turns red, we'd ask that you please comply with the guidelines and conclude your remarks. Thank you again for your anticipated cooperation. And we'll ask that once you yield it to the podium so the next speaker can move on. We also reserve the right pursuant to our rules of council to limit repetitious comment on same subject matter. So with that, I would ask Mr. Decker to read the first name on our list, and I would want to thank you so much for participating in your council session today and witnessing your government in action. Mr. Decker, please read the first name on the list.
The first speaker today, Mr. President, is Khalil Wilcher.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Khalil Wilcher. I'm a resident of the 9th Councilmanic District. Currently reside in Mount Airy. I want to thank you, give a thank you to the distinguished members of council, and specifically to Councilman Anthony Phillips for his resolution, specifically about the trucks parking on the street. In my councilmanic district and my ward, 50th ward, this is an issue. Specific streets, we have the trailers parked. We have a lot of things that become an eyesore as well as a safety issue. I do recognize that commercial transportation is a lucrative business, a tax-generating business, and a business that is necessary, specifically in black and brown communities. Revenue, any positive revenue streams, I'm all for. However, I think it does need to be regulated, and it should be allowed to be curtailed by whether it be parking authority, whether it be some form of ordinance, signage, and it should be able to be handled in that matter. My suggestion would be at a later date, maybe the ward leaders or maybe the committee people get together and designate areas in which the commercial vehicles can be parked and placed out of the way and not on streets where maybe it blocks traffic, you can't see, also children, walking and things of that nature. I think it's a good resolution, and I thank the councilman for introducing it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Edison Frazier, commenting on 200658.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Edison Frazier, and I'm here on the bill 200954, the resolution approving the neighborhood preservation program. Now, I agree that with the golf course coming around, it's bringing money to the neighborhood, but at the same time, it's destroying the neighborhood. And it's not really going to bring nothing to the neighborhood because our Ben was trying to do this paintball thing. So I don't know, ain't nobody, I've been talking to certain people, so I got to come through here to get this out, whereas though I think that the paintball would bring more to the kids on the streets and the violence and stuff like that. That paintball ain't really gonna bring, the golf course really ain't gonna bring nothing. You destroying trees, you cutting it down. I'm from Philly Thrive. you cutting trees and you destroying the neighborhood. The average black young person ain't gonna go to no golf course. Ain't gonna go to no golf course. I was bringing the paintball thing because I was gonna do it like the Bloods and the Crip, bring them together, educate them, get them jobs, and moving on. Nobody don't hear me. So I've been doing this for like 4 or 5 years. I mean, Councilman, you approved me to do it, but you know, you said you're gonna talk to me. I talked to Kenyatta, I talked to Gardier. It's like, I mean, the golf course really ain't gonna do nothing because a young black ain't gonna come there and play no golf. It's bringing money, but at the same time, it's destroying our community. So I'm saying if I bring this paintball thing, it's gonna put a patch on the crime. I'm around the city. I know the shooters. They need something to do. I don't know if this is the platform for this, but I try to come to talk to everybody, but this is what I gotta do now. I got a kid right now on the run. I don't know what to do with it. I don't want a tournament. So I'm just saying, like I'm gonna have a meeting with you, Jones, and Kenyatta, and I wanna see what we gonna do because you gave me the money to get the paintball stuff, now I need somewhere to go. You gave me the money to get the paintball, I ain't trying to put you, but I'm trying to say to youth, you gave me the money to get it, I mean, you put the golf course up there, you let me put the paintball up there. That's gonna bring money and it's gonna stop the crime a little bit. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm done. But I'll see you after this over, Mr. Jones. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Lynn Landis, commenting on 210913.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Lynn Landis, founder of healthalertphilly.org. I'm commenting in support of Councilwoman Bass's resolution to enforce the Healthy Outdoor Public Spaces Law, which minimizes the use of toxic pesticides in public spaces. It is vitally important that the laws City Council passes are enforced by the mayor. Otherwise, our system of checks and balances falls apart. It is equally important the City Council not pass laws and policies that violate people's civil liberties without a very good reason for doing so. Therefore, I respectfully request that City Council end the mask and social distancing mandate that is currently being required in this chamber. I am not questioning City Council's good intentions, but there is no science to justify the use of these mandates in public spaces. In fact, I filed a right-to-know request for any studies the Board of Health uses to justify mask mandates, but they refuse to provide even one, and that is because there are few, if any. Conversely, there are over 150 studies and reports that indicate that masks are not only ineffective at preventing transmission of disease, they can be very detrimental to our mental and physical health. Masks lower oxygen intake and increase carbon dioxide levels, which is particularly harmful for young children, pregnant women, and the elderly. Masks can be contaminated with bacteria, toxic chemicals, and dangerous fibers. Masks can also increase the incidence of respiratory infection, yet the public has not been informed of any of these harmful health effects by the Board of Health, which is highly unethical. For all these reasons, I respectfully request that City Council end the mask and social distancing mandates in this chamber. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Peter Winslow, commenting on 220954.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Peter Winslow. I am a Philadelphia resident. I speak to you today as president of a Smart Collaboration LLC and as a candidate recommended by City Council to Mayor Kennedy for appointment to the initial board of the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority. Thank you, President Clark and members of council, for this opportunity to speak in support of resolution number 520954 for the approval of the statement and budget of the 22-23 Neighborhood Preservation Initiative. And I thank the council and Mayor Kennedy for approving this $400 million program in 2020. The intentions and the mission of the Neighborhood Preservation Initiative and the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority are aligned. And those of us who are supporting the Financial Authority and the Public Bank do not want to wait until the entity of the Public Financial Authority is established to put forward innovative programs such as the ones that can be done under this initiative. So we applaud it going forward. And I would point out that when the Financial Authority is implemented, that there will be some additional benefits that will accrue to the program. Presumably, the Financial Authority would be a recipient of the service agreements that are contemplated under the program. But there are some other things that we can add to this effort that are not currently available. The legislation for the Public Financial Authority mandates that we qualify as a community development financial institution, which is something that a city agency or one of the other authorities is unable to do because they do not have independence of the government, which is one of the requirements. Furthermore, none of the existing institutions are interested or have the capacity to become a public bank and thereby engage in fractional reserve banking, which would extend the capacity of the institutions working collectively as a citywide effort to further the goals that we all hold together. So thank you very much, and I urge passage today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Andrew Frischkopf, commenting on 220954.
Andrew Frischkopf. I thought I saw him earlier. He must have left. Go ahead.
The next speaker is Reverend Jeanette Davis, commenting on a resolution to introduce today and to be adopted today by Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning.
Good morning, President Clark and council members. My name is Reverend Jeanette Davis, and I am the Executive Director of Divas Ministry Group nonprofit organization. I am also a member of the Philadelphia Black Clergy and Vice Synod, and also an advisory board member to a new initiative called 57 Blocks. So today, I am here in support, I stand in support, and I request that the resolution that was presented today by Councilwoman Gauthier for gun violence prevention and for our youth be approved. I would also like to request that a strategic plan be implemented into our communities that can bring about real change by reducing gun violence in the city. That plan that we would like to see City Council embrace is called the 57 Block Initiative. To ensure that we are collectively doing everything humanly and morally possible to provide resources and public safety precautions for our youth and our residents of Philadelphia. I will share a brief synopsis of the 57 Blocks. 57 Blocks is the working name for a strategy aimed at reducing gun violence and addressing its harmful impacts on our hardest hit neighborhoods through targeted investment of resources, services, and environmental improvements. This strategy is designed to bring non-law enforcement, evidence-based services, and improvements to the people and places that are in dire need of them the most. Immediately following these proceedings, we will convene across the hall for a short briefing on the 57 Block Initiative. We invite and encourage all council members to attend the briefing with questions, concerns, and to learn how to participate in this initiative. I'm closing with this. To whom much is given, much is required. God has given us a voice and the power to advocate for his people. We know that to put the work in, that's what we need to do. We know that faith without works is dead. So as the clergy continues to pray, as our community organizations continue to be on the front line, as our elected officials continue to provide new legislation, and most importantly, as God's power continues to rest, rule, and abide with us, we can be victorious in transforming Philadelphia back to the great city it once was. Thank you, and may God continue to bless you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. I appreciate it.
The next speaker is Ogbonna Higgins, commenting on 220954.
Morning.
Great morning, everyone. Ogbonna Higgins. I definitely am in agreement with the $100 million for the Neighborhood Preservation Initiative. I want to talk a little bit about the violence. The violence that, in regards to this though, the violence that you see in the Afro-American community was imported because of factors beyond their control. It is time this city owns this reality. The Brookings Institute has provided empirical data of long-standing social, economic, and legal repression of the Afro-American freedmen community in Philadelphia. Through home and commercial property ownership, the average loss in the Afro-American community home market is about $48,000 per home, amounting to billions and billions in cumulative losses collectively. We now have evidence that the Afro-American community in Philadelphia has been robbed of billions of dollars. The question is, how is this body going to approach getting the money back? I feel that this injustice warrants a convening of a special committee accompanied by the district attorney's office to investigate and, if needed, to prosecute those responsible. In closing, it is very possible that there would have never been a junior black mafia, a black mafia, or the current drill killings if those billions were allocated or allowed to remain in the Afro-American community, to be passed down through generations and generations. This body can no longer just sit by idly while the Afro-American communities spiral into an economic collapse. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it.
Reverend Gregory Holston, commenting on 220954.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Gregory Holston. I am Senior Advisor on Policy and Advocacy at the District Attorney's Office. I am the Chair of Black Clergy's Gun Violence Committee and also a member of the 57 Block Coalition Initiative that Reverend Jeanette Davis was just talking about. I stand in support of this $400 million initiative around home preservation, neighborhood preservation, particularly in the areas of lighting. Can't say enough about more resources for lighting. One of the points that we are continually making in this 57 Block initiative is simple things like lighting and trash removal make all the difference in terms of the violence in our community. One of our group's Frontline Dads, a member of our group, did a study, a survey of North Philadelphia, and the number one issue came back in the areas that they walked and talked to the community was lighting, lighting, lighting. If we just had some more lights, we would not have the violence that we're having. So I'm so happy that we're having some resources to start to really address that. Part of this 57 Block initiative considers all of those issues and talks about it, doing it in a real way, in a real strategy, We look at those 57 blocks, we look at the about a quarter-mile radius around each one of those blocks, and we find that 30% of the homicides of the city of Philadelphia occur only on 5% of the land in the city of Philadelphia. The neighborhoods that are suffering the most are those kinds of neighborhoods. And those neighborhoods have been disinvested in for the last 100 years. Our country has had a policy of not investing in black and brown neighborhoods, and much of the neighborhoods that we walk in North Philadelphia and Kensington were neighborhoods that were specifically and intentionally targeted to not have investment, that mortgages were denied simply because black and brown people were there. And that policy lasted through the 1970s intentionally and still lasts today through the practice. And we even found a study, as you know, from 2018, the Reveal report, that showed very clearly that mortgages are still being denied 2 or 3 times, and that the black and brown community is losing over $1 billion or close to $1 billion a year in mortgages. Come after this meeting today, we urge you, council, with all our heart to come and let us be able to share all of this information with you so that we can build a strategy that can really transform our city and end this gun violence nightmare that's occurred for the last 50 years in our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Khalif Alexander, commenting on 220954.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Khalif Alexander. I am here representing an organization called Concerned Black American Citizens. And one of the reasons why I'm actually speaking today is because I'm noticing that, the city of Philadelphia doing amazing things, or at least trying to, right? Now, one thing that we haven't really addressed is the structural violence. And I know a lot of the times we say the term gun violence, but structural violence is a more unique thing. It affects the economics, it affects the mental capacity, and it creates what we see as this thing called gun violence. Now, previously, you heard Brother Obona Higgins, he spoke on behalf in regards to the economic component, right? Now, I like to focus a lot on the reparations piece, the structural violence piece, and the most important piece is this thing called the Freedmen Bureau. Now, we had the Freedmen Bureau during the Reconstruction era. Many people, they may not be familiar with that, but during the Reconstruction era, we had that. We have this beautiful statue outside of Octavius Cato, who was killed in the city of Philadelphia during the Reconstruction era for the right to vote. But he didn't die for the right to vote just for anything. He died for the right to vote for liberation of his people. So, with that being said, I look around in the city of Philadelphia and we have an Office of Immigrant Affairs, an Office of LGBTQ Affairs, but we don't have an Office of Black American Affairs. So I'm trying to figure out how can we get that, how can we have that as a reality in today's time, but also how can we earmark dollars specifically for Black Americans, because that's something that we need. We talk about the violences all the time in the city of Philadelphia, but we know that these different programs that people have, that's not going to really end the violence. That's a Band-Aid for that's a Band-Aid for gunshot wounds. That's not going to do much. So I say all that to say, one of the main reasons why I'm here today is to speak on behalf of the reparationists, and I'm just demanding that the city of Philadelphia look into the lineage wealth gap between Black Americans and white Americans, as quoted by Dr. William Sandy Darity from Duke University, anywhere between $14 and $20 trillion. And I think if this body begins to look at the lineage wealth gap, we'll be able to answer some of the questions in regards to the violence that we have in the city of Philadelphia. Because the violence is a health crisis. And anywhere you have a health crisis, immediate funds are released. So I conclude on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
There are no other speakers today, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker, and thank you all for your testimony today. We really appreciate you being here to give us your input. We will now consider the bills and resolutions that are on the calendar today on our final passage. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Resolution Number 220954.
A resolution approving the 2022-2023 Neighborhood Preservation Initiative Program Statement and Budget, which addresses the expenditure of $100 million by various agencies in the second year of the Neighborhood Preservation Initiative Program.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, resolution number 220956.
A resolution naming the 600 block of North 66th Street as John Skeef Way in honor of John Skeef, the founder of the Harambee Institute of Science and Technology Charter School.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. For those of us who are old enough to remember Baba Skeef, he was a trailblazer who, in education, before there was a black male engagement, before there was an emphasis on black educators being in our school, said at West Philadelphia High School that there needed to be a different type of process to educate our young people, particularly males, particularly individuals that were at risk of being lost in the system. He cited a number of the statistics on how our kids graduate, how they wind up in bad outcomes, and more than just citing them, he did something about it by establishing Harambee Institute, which happens to be in the 4th District. In addition to that, to his education advocacy, he was a vanguard on social issues, civil rights issues, anti-violence issues, and left us too soon. But what he left behind was an institution called Harambee. And if you've ever been in that school, it is different than many schools because there is a woke atmosphere before that term was ever truly popular. And the kids, the children, the youth there have a sense of self that only exists in a handful of schools that I know of. And they're very proud of their institution, of their projected futures. And I'm thankful to him and his family for bringing that institution into our district by buying the land, by buying the property, and moving that institution forward, which in my opinion was the vanguard for a number of charter schools in the city of Philadelphia. And therefore, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Mr. Decker, 220957.
A resolution initiating action to continue the Roxborough Neighborhood Improvement District beyond its termination date in an area that generally includes both sides of Ridge Avenue from Main Street beginning with 5122 Ridge Avenue to 7220 Ridge Avenue and certain blocks of streets that intersect that portion of Ridge Avenue. Continuing the designation of the Roxborough Development Corporation, a Pennsylvania nonprofit corporation, as the Neighborhood Improvement District Management Association for the district.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 220959.
A resolution approving the action of the Board of the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation and the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development to sell a property at 7411 Holstein Avenue in the Eastwick Urban Manoa area, Stage A, industrial, containing approximately 3 acres to Ale Vieri and Associates Incorporated.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 220960.
A resolution authorizing the creation of the Philadelphia Opioid Response Task Force.
Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 220961.
A resolution approving the First Amendment to the Second Amended and Restated Parking Garage Development Agreement and Lease and Estoppel of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the Market Street East urban renewal area located generally on the east side and west side of 11th Street from Arch Street to Filbert Streets, but excluding certain air rights. Authorizing the Redevelopment Authority to execute the development contract and lease and estoppel with Parametric Garage Associates, and to take such action as may be necessary to effectuate the development contract and lease and estoppel.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, Bill number 220322, AA.
An ordinance amending Chapter 16400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Surplus Properties by adding criteria for evaluating non-competitive dispositions.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier for an amendment to Bill number 220322, AA.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer an amendment to Bill number 220322AA. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move for the adoption of the amendment.
All in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Bill number 220322, AA has been amended, and Bill number 220322, AA as amended will be placed on our final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 220742.
An ordinance authorizing an increase in the non-electoral indebtedness of the city within the Pennsylvania constitutional limit, authorizing the bond committee to sell bonds at public or private negotiated sale to provide funds toward various capital municipal purposes, providing for appropriations to the sinking fund commission for the payment of such bonds, and authorizing agreements to provide credit or payment or liquidity sources for the bonds in connection with issuance of the bonds, and certain other actions.
Thank you. This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilman Driscoll. Councilwoman Gauthier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Harity. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilwoman Lozada. Councilman O. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman Phillips. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Vaughn. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 14, the nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 220638.
An ordinance amending Title IV of the Philadelphia Code entitled the Philadelphia Building Construction and Occupancy Code by adopting the 2018 edition of the International Residential Code as published by the International Code Council, including maintenance of previously adopted amendments to the 2015 International Residential Code as adopted under the Pennsylvania Uniform Construction Code Act.
Thank you. This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilman Driscoll. Councilwoman Gauthier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Harity. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilwoman Lozada. Councilman O. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman Phillips. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Vaughn. Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 14 and nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 220666.
An ordinance amending Chapter 9, 3300 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Use and Inspection of Tower and Mobile Cranes in Construction to require brakes for operators.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman Squilla for an amendment to Bill Number 220666.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to offer an amendment to Bill Number 220666. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Bill number 220666 as amended will be placed on our final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution calling on the administration along with the Philadelphia Parking Authority to perform an audit of semi-trailer and truck tractor parking across the city of Philadelphia, to investigate best practices in other jurisdictions, and to provide solutions to this growing problem in the city. Also, authorizing the City Council Committee on Streets and Services to hold public hearings to assess the enforcement of semi-trailer and truck tractor parking regulations, introduced today by Councilman Phillips.
Chair recognizes Councilman Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring and congratulating Champion of the Week, Jacob Beckles, for being the first basketball player from Philadelphia Public League to receive admission to an Ivy League university in 40 years, introduced today by Councilmember Thomas.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Councilman Johnson, you missed, I think it was three votes, just for the record.
Yes, Council President, for the record, I would like to be voted aye on all bills that I recently didn't have the opportunity to vote on, particularly Bill 220742.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
You're welcome.
Let the record reflect that Councilman Johnson voted aye on bills.
And also Bill number 220638. Y'all did a lot while I was in the back.
Yes, sir.
220666.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Council President.
On behalf of the people, we keep it moving. Mr. Decker, did you?
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities to hold hearings to examine the approach and expected impacts of SEPTA's Bus Revolution service reconfiguration, introduced today by Councilman Johnson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Labor and Civil Service to hold hearings to examine the prevalence of workplace misclassification, also known as payroll fraud, introduced today by Councilman Johnson.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention to conduct a hearing to develop a comprehensive approach to supporting youth who are at risk of being involved in or are currently involved in gun violence, introduced today by Councilwoman Gauthier. Councilwoman Gauthier, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring Nicholas D. Benedictus for his 18 years of service as chairman of the Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau Board of Directors, introduced today by Councilman O'Neill.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman O. Did you want to be recognized?
For speeches, Council President.
There are no other resolutions on a final passage calendar, Mr. President.
All right. Teeing up early. Thank you.
I got to tee up early.
Thank you, sir. All right. That concludes our calendar for the day. And we will now move to our speeches on behalf of the minority. What happened to this council? Councilman O, did you want to? It was, yeah. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. First, I'd like to join Councilmember Isaiah Thomas in welcoming Longstreth. I went to Longstreth, kindergarten, K through 6.
Wow.
And so I've been there recently, along with our former council member, Janie Blackwell, a few times, and always happy to see the children from the neighborhood here. I do have an announcement. I'm going to roll into a comment that has to do with legislation. But first, I'd like to just welcome everyone to PHL Live Center Stage Award Show. That is going to be on Tuesday, December the 20th at the World Cafe Live. And what that is, for folks who don't know, it's a free platform where people get on and submit their original music, 3-minute video, and they're reviewed by Grammy Award winners, music industry leaders in 10 musical categories, everything from hip hop to classical to jazz to R&B, rock, and 3 judges pick 5 finalists, and they've performed in 10 musical categories at different venues, and now we will have the award show where the 5 finalists are recognized. 1 winner will get $1,000, free studio recording time, and other things like that. Really what it is a platform for people with talent who want to move up ahead in their pursuit of their talent and ability. It is very important to our city. It's very important to our efforts to deal with a lot of problems in our city. But we're going to really reflect on what young people want. There's a lot of things that are good for them. They're not interested. The creative arts economy is something they're very interested in, and they want the opportunities. And you know, this is what that effort is. I get criticism from that. Sometimes people say, like, you're wasting your time in the arts, and I always blurt this out. $3.4 billion, this is pre-COVID, per year. $920 million in household income per year, and $157 million in local taxes per year. It's not a waste of time. It's very important that we pursue this. And so I'm going to roll into my next comment, which is this. As a councilman at large, the greatest problem that I've faced is not having any money. And people are always surprised to find out that council people at large don't have a budget, don't have funding, don't have funds. We got to operate pretty much. I got to get the money from corporations and other entities. So I'd like to shout out Dunkin' Donuts and Laborers Local 57 for donating the funds to make the prizes available. But whatever work it is, and, you know, speaking on behalf of all of our at-large council people, you know, we cover the whole city, and we don't have funds. And people come to us asking for money to support their work. We don't have any money to give them. I actually started a youth nonprofit symposium where I bring foundations and corporations to give money to nonprofits that serve children and youth. What I'm saying is, it's been raised a couple times, and perhaps not satisfactorily by me. Why do council members at large not have a fund? And I think they should. I think council members at large should have a fund to support some of the work that they do for the community. And I know it's controversial, but I want, but I'm going to bring it up on behalf of my colleagues. They should have some funds. It's a lot of work to cover the whole city with no money, no resources, and try to do things and help people. I intend to write a bill to allocate funds to members at large so they have some level of money that they can engage with. What I was told, Council President, is council members at large don't have money because the public doesn't want council members to have money, and I understand that. They don't want council members to have money. They don't want us to have resources. They don't want us to go outside of the city. I understand all that, but for the better interest, you know, I went to Korea. I had to pay for it myself. To meet with the chairman of Korea Airlines, to meet with the executive vice president of Asiana Airlines, to meet with the vice chairman of Hyundai Motor Group, because we had a train manufacturer here in Philadelphia. I've been to pathway schools in New York. I go down to Washington to the embassy. I have to pay for that out of my pocket, which is okay. But traveling through the city with nonprofits and community groups and everybody else who oftentimes come to city council say, we need some financial help, we need some help. I'm looking for 2 laptop computers, by the way, because the imam asked me, he needs 2 laptops. I'm calling, I'm looking for laptop computers. I get asked for things, I have no money, I can't give money. I'm just saying, PHL Live or whatever work I do, isn't it a problem that I have to constantly beg corporations, constantly look for donations to do the government's work? There might be a conflict of interest. Somebody might say, you're funding some of this with your campaign funds, even though it's not a campaign year, but I got to pay for this somehow. With all of that said, I ask all of you, my colleagues, to share your thoughts with me. Maybe I'm missing something, but there are 7 at large. 5 of them Democrats, 2 of them not. And for the not, we have a Working Families Party, we've got a Republican here. Who knows what the future will hold, but the at-larges, I think, should have some level of public funds to do their public work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman, I'm going to talk to City Council about that. Look like you all are starting out with like 6 members here today. All right, that's the conversation that we probably should have. But that all happened before we got here, but we'll have that conversation internally. Thank you, sir. On behalf of before I did, the Councilwoman Blackwell Lee, I just wanted to apologize for not recognizing her earlier. I just wanted to recognize that she was here. I apologize. On behalf of the majority, Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gil Scott-Heron had a line that says, "The revolution will not be televised." Popular song in the 70s, one that I tapped my feet and nodded my head to a lot. But I tapped my feet and nodded my head this week because I did not understand how SEPTA could have a bus revolution and not have it thought out well. I want to thank my colleague, Member Johnson, for sponsoring a hearing that I hope we can encourage the state to be a part of. I want to thank my colleague, Gilmore Richardson, for being the alarmist to say this was going down, and that out of the 118 routes, 105 of them are going to either be discontinued, altered, merged, or rerouted. Talk about a revolution. Member Johnson talks about, what is it, seventh bus? 17 bus that he grew up on, that goes through his district and travels throughout the city. In my area, the G bus, from Woodland Avenue to City Avenue. South Philly hits South Philly too. All of these are going to be renamed, rerouted for what? Under the emphasis of efficiency that they said, and eventually in Roxborough, they admitted it was because of money. It was because of money. And they said that ridership was down. I would suggest to them that if you kept SEPTA clean, you'd increase ridership. If you kept SEPTA safe, you would increase ridership. If you kept SEPTA reliable, you would increase ridership. You don't cut services to increase ridership. We are experiencing in parts of our city. Unprecedented expansion, houses going up, cranes everywhere. New residents to the city of Philadelphia. You try to sell us on, let's ride automobiles less. Well, if we ride automobiles less, we should be riding buses more. And in so doing, having more options to be able to get from point A to point B. It is inconceivable that kids from Andorra have to now travel, add time to get to school, from getting up at 5 in the morning to have to get up at 4 in the morning. It is wrong for our senior citizens who know their way to their doctor's office to now have to recalculate their way to vital services they depend on. We should be considering merging of stops, maybe, more efficient buses, definitely, but we should not do any of that without listening to the community. So, Gil Scott-Heron said the revolution will not be televised. The counter-revolution will be publicized. And we're not going to sit by in this body because it affects every one of the districts and, by the way, Member O, all of the at-larges in this body. So stay tuned, stay involved, and don't let this revolution, shots be fired and us not address those issues. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. I did not see the State Rep, Morgan Cephas, behind the rail. Representative, I'd like to recognize the State Representative Morgan Cephas. Thank you for being here today. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gautier.
Thank you, Council President. I want to start by also acknowledging the students here from Longstreth, which is in the 3rd Councilmanic District. It's wonderful to see you all here this morning. Today, I introduce 2 resolutions. The first of which, co-introduced with Councilmember Thomas, honors the life and legacy of Cobbs Creek community leader, Coach Gene Lett, by renaming the 5500 block of Christian Street after him. Coach Gene was a lifelong resident of West Philadelphia and spent his entire life pouring his heart and soul into uplifting his community's youth. Coach Gene was more than just a coach to his basketball players. He was a role model and a mentor. He required excellence from his players, not only on the court, but in the classroom as well. Through his degree-chasing program, he constantly emphasized the student part of being a student athlete. And as president of the Christie Rec Center Recreation Advisory Council and a dedicated volunteer at Christie for years, he led countless youth programs and community events, creating fun and creative programming for kids and adults alike. Coach Gene's sudden passing last month left a huge hole in the hearts of everyone who loved him, especially in the Cobbs Creek community that he called home. And I'd like to offer my sincere condolences to his wife, Andrea, his children and grandchildren. I hope that renaming the 5500 block of Christian Street serves as a small token of the city and of Cobbs Creek's gratitude for Coach Gene's unwavering dedication to West Philly's young people. We miss him dearly, and Cobbs Creek will feel a lot emptier without him. I also co-introduced a resolution with Councilmember Johnson calling for a hearing on youth gun violence so the city can develop a more comprehensive, targeted, and proactive strategy to engage youth who are at risk of being involved in or who are already involved in gun violence. I am gravely concerned that the victims and perpetrators of gun violence are becoming younger and younger, and that small beefs are resulting in our children being injured or murdered. Children are shooting each other at football games, at supposed safe havens like parks and rec centers, and just steps away from their schools. Our city can't go on like this, and we cannot allow this to become normal. because these young people are Philadelphia's next generation of business leaders, community organization leaders, and city council members. As a city, we have a fundamental duty to make sure that they have the tools they need to remain safe and to thrive. And although the city already provides an extensive array of services for young people, I consistently hear from advocates and young people directly that we are not offering our youth adequate supports or opportunities. Parents do not know where to go for help, and when they do connect with services, those services are often not delivered in time to save their children. Simply put, we are failing, and we cannot pretend otherwise. As I've said before, the gun violence epidemic in our city is a public health emergency, just like the COVID-19 pandemic, and we need to take the same multi-layered collaborative approach to saving our children from gun violence. We know that we cannot use a one-size-fits-all prevention strategy across all age groups when it comes to addressing involvement with gun violence. This is why I introduced this resolution today, calling for the Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention to hold a hearing to explore the issue of youth gun violence, to identify service gaps, clarify what's working, and uncover budgetary, policy, and programmatic remedies internally and externally. Our youth are calling out, and we must help them. We can do more, and we must do more to solidify Philadelphia's long-term success by protecting and supporting our next generations of leaders. These children are our future, and they deserve nothing less than bold, targeted, quick, and impactful support from their local government. Thank you so much. And then lastly, I just want to remind everyone that we have a briefing right across the hall in the caucus room for council members and staff on the 57 Blocks initiative. I want to thank the members of the 57 Blocks Coalition that came here to speak today, Reverend Holston and Reverend Davis. I also want to thank Agbana Higgins and also the other young man who spoke so poignantly about how Black neighborhoods have been disinvested in for decades and decades and decades, and that you can tie a direct line straight from that disinvestment to the gun violence that's happening now. 57 Blocks calls for targeted, bold investments in quality of life services and other interventions that can really help those neighborhoods to move forward. This is a proven strategy. It's been proven even by our own Dr. Eugenia South, a brilliant Black trauma surgeon who does work at Penn, who even looked at how the city's targeted basic systems repair program, if we target it correctly, can help to drop the level of shootings on particular blocks. And so I believe in this strategy very much, and I hope all my colleagues will come over to hear the briefing and to get some lunch too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Blackwell, thanks. Just want to recognize Councilwoman Blackwell. She's back in. Thank you, Councilwoman, for being here. Thank you so much. Chair recognizes Councilman Harity.
Council President Clark, today I rise to address the plight of the opioid and gun violence epidemic in our city. On November 28, 2022, the day on which myself and our three newest colleagues took our oath of office to become members of this body, I drove to my home in Kensington, only to find the police officers were there at both ends of the block investigating a murder of a 17-year-old. This is just one example of the type of violence that plagues all our communities. Sadly, there are no stories covering this shooting. The Inquirer wasn't there to report the details. Channel 6 did not send the news van. In this city, we have been too accustomed to single instances of murder that only mass shootings make headlines. All other instances of crime can be seen as just a normal day in Philadelphia. This is unacceptable. While Philadelphia's 2022 homicide rate is approximately 7% lower than the 2021, it is appalling that through the end of November, 53 of those arrests for homicide were juveniles. Most shockingly, 37 victims of homicide were also juveniles. We are failing our children when we take to Sorry. We are failing our children when they take to the streets to shoot each other. We are failing our children when they are pushing poison like fentanyl on our streets and carrying guns to harm each other. We are failing our children when we do not give them the chance to have the same education and extracurricular activities that children in other counties have. At the same time, we are failing our children when we do not hold the individuals who commit these heinous crimes accountable. We need to send a clear message to those who commit violence in our city. We will make sure that you are found, fully punished to the full extent of the law. The critical component to this is equipping our law enforcement officers with the tools needed to investigate each and every one of these crimes, including more cameras in high crime areas. While this body appropriations bill passed last week attempted to do some of that, it doesn't go far enough. Public safety is one of the most pressing issues facing our council today. We must prioritize the city's safety so that we can prevent another year like this year or last year. We can get our children back to what they're supposed to be doing, which is being kids. I'm tired of burying children. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. A couple things real quick. First and foremost, I wanted to offer my condolences to the family of Gene Lett. Councilmember Gaudier spoke briefly about Gene's impact in the 3rd Councilmanic District, specifically his work at Christie Rec Center. But I remember Gene when he was assistant coach at Lincoln University. Gene was somebody who I competed against, some of my best friends and some of the people who are having a phenomenal impact on our children today. Played for Gene and was mentored by Gene, and because of the work he's done and the legacy that he's created, his life will continue to live on, not just through Gene Jr., who's a great young man who's also doing the work, but through all the different adults now who he coached, who he mentored, who are also now giving back and having a positive impact on young people all across the city of Philadelphia. I just wanted to acknowledge Gene, and my heart is still broken for him and his family as he actually passed away on his way to the hospital, but he was participating in athletic activity, doing what he loved to do in one of our rec centers. So my thoughts and prayers go out to Gene, his wife, his children, and everybody that is hurt by Gene's passing. I also wanted to, like you, Council President, acknowledge our Philadelphia delegation chair, who I seen walk in earlier, State Rep Morgan Cephas, as well as former Councilwoman Janie Blackwell, who I personally appreciate, who actually still continues to mentor me and support me, even while not being in council. So Councilwoman Blackwell, is always an honor for you to be in our presence. If folks did not know, yesterday, the PIAA voted to allow NIL, name, image, and likeness, for high school students all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is going to completely change what it means to participate in interscholastic athletics, and this council body is already thinking about what protections we need to take in order to support those young people. A few weeks back, I introduced the NIL Youth Protection Act right here on this council floor, and I talked about the importance of making sure that we have resources and legal advice available for young people so they don't become victims of predatory behavior. So while that bill has not been passed yet, I'm going to continue to work with my colleagues and continue to push the administration to make sure that the funding and the dollars are allocated and are there to be able to make sure that young people have the support they need, especially if they come below a certain income level. Last but not least, I'm having an event this weekend, the inaugural Councilman Isaiah Thomas Classic, where we're going to be inviting high school students from all over the area to participate and compete on a level that will put them in a position to be able to show their skills off to not just the folks who are viewing the event this weekend, but as well as the scouts and the college coaches who we're going to send the film out to. So I'm excited about that. And believe it or not, Councilmember O, I had to raise the money myself to be able to put this event on so it could put our young people in a position where we did not charge any of the teams and any of the youth who participate in the event. So if you want to come out this weekend and look at some highly competitive student athletes who are now eligible for NIL deals, We will be having the event this Friday at Frankfurt High School, which is my alma mater, and this Saturday at Mass Charter School. Thank you, Council President, and thank you, colleagues, for your continued support.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Phillips.
Thank you, Council President. I simply wanted to, this wasn't a part of my original remarks, but I simply wanted to say I really enjoyed listening to council members Curtis Jones and David O., Jim Harity, and Jamie Gauthier just now. That really touched me. I just wanted to come forth and say thank you to this body for coming forth and supporting the resolution for us to review truck parking in the city of Philadelphia. I do want it to be known loud and clear that we have truck drivers who are residents in the city of Philadelphia, and it's important for us to find where they can park and how they can have a better experience with parking. But our residents in our neighborhoods are really concerned about that, and we have to come to a rightful compromise or some sort of how we're going to make sure truck parking is a situation that we can ensure that helps us the quality of life of Philadelphia. It also, truck parking, what I do know is that is also a violence prevention measure in more ways than one, because when we have better quality of life, things are better. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you all again, looking forward to work, and the collaboration is key to me, and so I just want to say thanks to all the council members.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too enjoy hearing all that my colleagues have to say, and I think that it's very valuable information, so I want to thank them for all of their hard work throughout the city of Philadelphia. I did want to make just a really brief comment on Councilman Jones and Councilman Johnson's work related to SEPTA. As many know, I have a soft spot for SEPTA and often get information regarding what's happening, particularly in our subway system. And I just wanted to make note that these cutbacks, while at the same time planning expansion outside of the city of Philadelphia, expansion into the suburbs, of the King of Prussia, which is, well and fine, but, cutting back in underserved neighborhoods is absolutely unacceptable, while expanding at the same time to more affluent communities, and absolutely is unacceptable. I did want to publicly put out there that I have asked the general manager of SEPTA on numerous occasions, probably for almost a year now, to travel with me on the Broad Street line and just check it out, and to travel at very specific times, to travel during the morning rush hour and just see what's going on. Travel in the evening or after school hours and into the early evening hours as commuters and students are traveling, and just see what's going on. And then traveling late at night around the 10 o'clock hour and see what's going on, because we haven't been able to get that commitment out of the general manager just yet. They've offered to ride at something like 11 o'clock in the afternoon, which is a very nice period of time, probably to ride SEPTA. But if you really want to know what's going on and what's happening, before you start cutting services, inconveniencing folks, changing routes, all these kinds of things, you really need to know what's going on. So I say this on the record as once again an invitation to take this ride and see what's going on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I'm sure word will get to her. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Vaughn.
Thank you, Council President. Councilwoman Bass, I am not riding SEPTA with you at night, because I do know what's down there, underground especially, a lot of unbecoming things. But I do want to say, I would like SEPTA to take into consideration that a lot of seniors are used to riding one mode of transportation, and then to try to change them to ride something else along with their walkers and canes and the bags that they always seem to carry, it would cause an inconvenience. And by having that one mode of transportation opposed to getting off and catching the subway or a train or those other vehicles, it puts them more at risk opposed to just getting on one place and getting off at another. So we really need to talk about that. And I'm with Councilman O. At-large council people definitely need an activity fund. We need some kind of income for all these requests that continue to come in for yearly events that happen in our city that it is expected of us to partake in. I think it might be a good idea for some of the district council people to just take those bills over for us, you know, because they have that money. You all didn't hear Councilwoman Bass just say, what? But it is hard for us as at large to be supportive of some of the activities that happen around the city of Philadelphia. And, you know, especially those of us that have not had the opportunity to raise a lot of funds yet because we have just come into office, but we're being asked to support activities that are going into the next year or forthcoming. So that is something I really gonna hope that you look into, Council President. Thank you, David O, for bringing that up. It's a daily thing daily challenge that we have to deal with, and one that we could definitely use some help with.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Seems like a little coordination going on here today. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. Just a couple brief remarks on Monday, and I want to thank you for your leadership for the initiative of this body to pass a $400 million bond that will allow us to provide more than 1,000 affordable housing units here in the city of Philadelphia over the next several years. And on Monday at 1 p.m. In my district, we were joined by you, myself, and other colleagues who would like to kick off the 1,000 affordable units that we will be providing and building here in the city of Philadelphia. We know some of our district are dealing with the issue of gentrification, and you know, I did learn if you don't have a gentrification problem, you have an even bigger problem in your district. And so we recognize that in the midst of development that we do see taking place, we want to make sure we have affordable units for individuals who live in the city of Philadelphia, regardless of their checkbook and or their pocketbook. And that event will take place on Monday at 1 p.m. at 30th and Wharton Street. And I'm sure all council members will be receiving information from the council president's office regarding the kickoff. Yesterday, we hosted a special committee on gun violence hearing, and I thank all my colleagues who took time out of their schedule to participate, because when we host these hearings, it gives us the opportunity to do a deeper dive with the administration on how are we addressing the issue of gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. One piece of information to me that was pretty interesting and eye-opener is that the small strides, but in this particular issue, when it comes to gun violence, any accomplishments that we make should still be acknowledged. In the Philadelphia Police Department report from Commissioner Daniel Outlaw showed how we have reduced homicides, right, in some of the highest crime-ridden and violent-ridden police districts here in the city of Philadelphia. And for me, when I asked her, what's your reasoning of why we're making progress in these particular areas, is because some of the things we are doing are actually working. And so I attribute some of those accomplishments are based upon some of the work that this body has been doing. We've invested more than $250 million historically around this issue of gun violence prevention over the last 2 budget cycles. And so when you talk about making sure that you have crisis and trauma-informed responders coming out to address individuals with mental health and mental illnesses as opposed to police officers, goes toward us addressing the issue of gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. When you talk about us having a 1-800 hotline, resource hotline that you established, Council President, for individuals who are looking for some type of resources and or support around the issue of gun violence that came from this body. When you talk about the issue of addressing victims and co-victims of gun violence, under my office, we introduced legislation to create the Office of Victim Advocate, where now individuals who lost a loved one in senseless gun violence has a place to go to strictly support those who have been impacted by gun violence, but also making sure that we are strategically focusing on those individuals who are more than likely to kill or be killed here in the city of Philadelphia. Plays a significant role on how we reduce the issue of gun violence. And so I thank all my colleagues for participating. That particular piece of information I thought was very, very interesting because homicides are down, shootings are up slightly, right, which is an issue that we have to address. But another issue we're going to follow up on is making sure where these guns are coming from. There are no gun factories in Strawberry Mansion. There are no gun factories in Point Breeze. And we are going to collect more than 6,000 plus illegal guns off the streets of Philadelphia. And so that's a bigger issue that we have to address. That's a bigger issue that we have to question. I also tell my friends in the press, when you are covering this issue of gun violence, ask the bigger question. Where these guns are coming from? Who are flooding the streets of Philadelphia with illegal guns, right? Because they aren't just coming here from nowhere. Some way, somehow, illegal guns are winding up in the hands of younger and younger young people. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing this from a comprehensive standpoint with our U.S. Attorney's Office, whoever our new Attorney General is going to be, and our district attorney, strictly around the issue of tracking down where the illegal guns are coming from, making sure they're not winding up in the hands of young people who we're trying to save in the first place. But while we're trying to save them, right, by providing them resources, at the end of the day, the accessibility to guns will allow them to resolve a conflict or beef with a handgun. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Look forward to that groundbreaking on Monday. Kick it off, sir. Thank you for the invitation to South Philadelphia. Okay, that concludes our speeches on behalf of the minority and the majority. So at this time, Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the council stand adjourned until Thursday, December 15th, 2022 at 10 a.m.
It's been moved and properly second. Council stand adjourned until Thursday, December 15, 2022, 10 a.m. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Thank you all very much. Please be safe.